think in the subscription world, not a lot of people talk about, and that's that 70% of the people that click cancel, they're actually not done with your brand.
I've been in the subscription world since about 2007. It's really difficult to fully understand why people might leave you, right? So we wanted to create a platform that specifically initially tackled active churn, so cancellation flows, and ultimately, try to prevent those cancellations at the point of churn.
Tony Sternberg is rewriting the rules of subscription retention. He has been in the subscription game since 2007, has exited a SaaS company, and now leads ProsperStack, the platform saving up to 40% of cancellations for top Shopify brands.
In the last 10 years in the subscription world, that people started to really pay attention to churn and retention and all those things. For all of us that were around, in the mid 2000s in the SaaS world, like the word customer success didn't exist.
When people cancel a subscription, it doesn't mean I hate your product and I never want your subscription. They're just too lazy to figure out how to pause it. So what they do is they just, in their head, just think, oh, I'll cancel it and I'll just resubscribe when I need it again.
There's this concept called the peak end rule, a psychological thing that...
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Shopify 1% podcast. I'm really excited about this one today because I have a neighbor. We just found out before the episode. We're practically neighbors,
right,
just across the border. But I want to give a little bit of background before we start. Here's a stat that I think in the subscription world, not a lot of people talk about. And that's that 70% of the people that click cancel, they're actually not done with your brand. They're not giving up. They're overwhelmed. They maybe have a mismatched product. Maybe they have too many, too little. They're confused. And if you can intervene at just the right time with the right offer, the right moment, the right context, brands consistently save 25%, often much more than that, of those who would normally cancel a subscription. And so today, my guest here, who's waiting patiently to chime in since I'm done my monologue, I've got Tony Sternberg. He's the CEO of ProsperStack, and their platform is the leading subscription cancellation management software in the world. And specifically in Shopify, they work with a lot of the largest brands to help deflect, win back, do everything to prevent cancellation. And they have a native integration with Bold subscriptions, which is how I got to know Tony really well. And we're actually doing, I'm going to say this before we start here, a webinar, December 16th. And I will make sure there's links in the show notes to the exact time. I think it's 11 Central. I'm actually not sure the exact time, but I'll make sure it's in the show notes, where we're actually going to show these cancellation flows, show different examples, what works, what doesn't. So you'll get a full visual breakdown of it. So just mark that on your calendar, and we'll make sure we email everyone about that as well too. But Tony, welcome to the show. Before we start, brag about yourself a little bit. Tell us who you are and give us the lowdown on ProsperStack.
Sure. So again, thanks for having me on, Jay. Looking forward to chatting retention with you, and not only today, but also on the webinar on December 16th. It is the 16th, right?
It is the 16th. Yeah, I just double checked. Yeah.
All right. And so again, I'm the CEO, co-founder of ProsperStack. Like Jay alluded to, we work with subscription brands to help with retention, specifically at the point of cancellation and beyond. But that's kind of our bread and butter. I've been in the subscription world since about 2007, so fairly early in the SaaS landscape, if you will. If you kind of consider it, maybe started in the early 2000s. I joined a startup that was in the HR tech space and was with that for about 12 years and kind of did everything along the way, whether it was customer support or QA testing, and got into product and operations. And we ended up growing and exiting that company in about 2020. And I was kind of like, what's the next step in what I'm going to do? What problems have I seen along the way? And that's where this kind of retention thing kind of married it into and hit home. And myself and my co-founder, had this idea that, hey, there's a lot of high volume, very transactional kind of subscription brands that acquire customers, in an automated way. And when you have that sort of model, which is a great model, you tend to lose kind of that understanding of your customers, that one-to-one relationship. And it's really difficult to fully understand why people might leave you, right? So we wanted to create a platform that specifically initially tackled active churn, so cancellation flows, and ultimately, try to prevent those cancellations at the point of churn. And our light bulb moment kind of creating it was like, we need to be really married to the subscription platforms like Bold and integrate very tightly to what they're doing so that we can create a low code, no code solution for our customers that will automatically, affect the subscriptions, through the Bold APIs. So that's really how our idea, kind of came, through, is just kind of seeing a problem in our own subscription business and wanting to do something about it and help brands just like ours at the time going forward. So that's really how I got here today.
So just before we get into it, what exactly does ProsperStack do? I know we say the word cancellation flows. Some people might be, what is the cancellation flow? Like, what is the exact mechanics of it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so at the point of cancellation, so if someone's a subscriber to your brand and they go to their account management page and they click that cancel button, that's where ProsperStack's going to take over. And we're going to leverage, all the kind of first party data in your subscription platform and any other data you want to share with us, about your customers, so that we can properly, segment them and really customize the journey for them and present an offer that's taking kind of all those data points that kind of create their segment and marrying that with the feedback they're giving you to make sure that we can give them an alternative to cancellation that actually makes sense, right? And there's a lot of reasons why people cancel, but that's really where we're coming into play and what we're trying to do at ProsperStack.
So then depending on what they select, it's like, I have too much, it's too expensive, I don't need it anymore, I no longer use the product, or whatever it is, you have a different flow based off of that, offering a discount, offering a product swap, offering a skip a month, or that kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. That's exactly right. So just, different reasons based on, different feedback given, and also going back to those kind of data points being the customer profile as well. Yep.
So why are canceling, like so many brands talk about acquiring more customers, they're spending so much money on the front end, millions of dollars on Facebook ads and doing everything they can to acquire customer, but they don't obsess over the cancellation part maybe as much as they should. Why, even though I think you've said it's probably one of the biggest levers you can pull, why do you think it gets maybe overlooked sometimes?
Yeah. And I think it's really in the last 10 years in the subscription world that people started to really pay attention to churn and retention and all those things. And think for all of us that were around, in the mid 2000s in the SaaS world, like the word customer success didn't exist, right? Everyone was focused on acquisition, and maybe rightfully so, because it was cheap.
Right.
But the problem is, over that time, there's a lot more competition. It's very easy to spin up a SaaS product or a subscription business. And throughout that time, with the competition and the rising costs of ad spend, whatnot, your CAC costs are way up. And it's just kind of becoming like an inflection point where once you acquire so many customers, it actually is just far more cost effective to retain them. And, the truth is, I think people focus on acquisition so long that maybe that inflection point can kind of sneak up on them and then really take over, where churn becomes a huge problem. But the good news is there's solutions you can kind of plug and play and really fight it. And there's no magic silver bullet or anything, but there's different ways you can go at it, and it's something that definitely needs to be paid attention to. But I think more and more people are realizing that it is something they have to focus on earlier in their company lifecycle.
What kind of results do you see? And I know you said, like, actually I saw someone posting this the other day. It was an agency that was working with subscription brands. I think they probably were using ProsperStack, but they said minimum like 25% was like table stakes. Like, what's like some of the high end results that you've seen? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's certainly some variance in like your profile end user, what you're selling, the quality of what you're selling, all that stuff. But I think like on a baseline, if you're really doing nothing and you plug in a solution that is at least dynamic and can speak to, the reasons why they're leaving, I think, 20% is a good baseline. But we've seen results that are in like the low 40s on some of our customers. So literally, if 100 people go to try to cancel, we're saving 40 some of them from doing it, which is, just a huge needle mover to like, the bottom line, underlying metrics of a subscription business, since it's all based off of, CAC and LTV essentially. So yeah, we're driving really just kind of direct numbers back to that affect all those important formulas.
To me, it's the same. It's like acquiring 20 to 40% new customers, really. Like if they were going to cancel, it's the same thing. There's no difference. It's saying like, what if I could come into your brand and boost your signups by 20 to 40%? People would say there's no way, like, or, like maybe 1 or 2%, but this is essentially the same thing, and arguably maybe even better, because there's a lot of data that shows when you have an interaction with a brand, and if something goes wrong, or you like that they actually stay around longer. Well, we know with our subscription app that customers who modify a subscription or update it in some way.
Sure.
This was a while ago, but it was between 400 and 600% higher LTV. So meaning they stay around 4 to 6 times longer. And I think the reason is that once you modify a subscription, you skip a month or you pause it for a little bit, you don't panic the next time when you have too many or too little. Like your brain doesn't go to, oh shoot, I got to cancel the subscription right away.
Yeah.
Because you've worked with it, you've modified it. Now you're like, your guard is down. So I'm willing to bet. Have you ever actually checked? I don't know. Like, do customers, after they're prevented from canceling, are they more valuable than customers who didn't cancel in the first place and just ended up canceling? Like, my hunch is they might be.
Yeah. There's a couple ways you could probably look at it. You could look at it almost like a new lease on the subscription, like almost starting over. But I mean, a lot of times, I kind of talk about it in different areas, but it's every subscription model, like churn it's just like waiting to happen, right? Like there's
it's inevitable.
Finite amount. It's inevitable. There's a finite amount of time they're going to be there. And a lot of times when you're preventing a cancellation, like it might be an event that triggered it that's premature in their expected, lifetime value, but it also can result in like a new fresh start as well. So like we've seen it in some cases where, on average, we're 3 to 6 months probably post save. I think that's a fair spot to be, but depending on your model, if you're annual subscription based or quarterly or monthly, like that can result in, over a year or more. So we work with, all sorts of different apps and direct to consumer type stuff, but it varies from industry to industry, but it is really unique to look at that data and kind of see those different changes and results as a means of, or as a result of saving the cancellation and how long they stick around.
Yeah. You've said in the past, I've heard you say that most cancel clicks are actually misdiagnosed. They're not necessarily like, the customer doesn't actually want to cancel. They're in their head, they're doing something else. What is the real root cause of churn across subscription brands? And then what do they get wrong when they look at their cancellation numbers and they're interpreting that?
Yeah. I think it's when you think about it from like a consumer perspective, and like you can even relate to this yourself, is when you decide to subscribe or choose a brand, like you want to be right. You want to say, I made the right choice. Like it's your choice, you own it, right? So nobody wants to admit they're wrong. So I think cancellation is always kind of like a last resort. There's always some sort of underlying problem. It is not necessarily that they want to cancel, but they might see it as their only way out at that time to solve that particular problem. So what we kind of see is that, like a lot of the cancellations that come in are really just due to solvable issues. It might be that your delivery schedule or cadence is too frequent and that the product's piling up. And it doesn't mean that they don't like your product. They don't want your product. They're like, I'm just getting overwhelmed. It might be that, the variant of the product is incorrect. So it could be like flavor, size of it, whatever the case might be. Or it could be like a temporary monetary issue where like, hey, this month's a little tight. I need to, back up, but I really would love to kind of keep this around at some point. So just being important to give the proper, responses to those particular reasons can just quite easily save the subscription. And, as we know, the hardest thing you can get someone to do is go put that credit card in and buy it again. So like do everything you can to not make the customer do it. Right. So just, give them that proper alternative and you'll be in good shape.
Right. I was listening to, this was about 4 years ago, Patrick Campbell.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. He was on stage at Sub Summit and he was talking about, they had a study that people who canceled subscriptions, and he does a lot in the SaaS space, like software subscriptions, but also like a little bit on the product side, but it was a ProfitWell report, but essentially it was like 37% of them were reactivated within, I think it was 6 months or some point. And the learning from it was when people cancel a subscription, they don't necessarily, it doesn't mean I hate your product and I never want your subscription. They're just too lazy to figure out how to pause it or how to adjust frequency. So what they do is they just in their head just think, oh, I'll cancel it and I'll just resubscribe when I need it again.
Yep.
I think I've probably been guilty of that as well too.
Same here.
Yeah, like it's just, but if you can intervene and present a management option, like how about a pause for 3 months, or how about a skip a month, or maybe it's the product, they wanted a different flavor in 6 months when they resubscribed. Do you have any sense of what is the percentage of customers that when they click cancel, you're never getting them back. Like they do not want it, but there's like a segment that, they're really trying to do one of those other things. Like it's not that they hate your product and subscription. It's just, this is how they're managing it.
Yep. No, I agree with that sentiment. I think I've seen statistics out there that say, and I think far too often people ignore past customers as a means to acquire new or reacquire
Yes.
them. Right?
Yes. So true. So true.
I've seen statistics that say you have a 60 to 70% chance to have someone purchase from you again that has previously done business with you. It's somewhere between a 5 and 20% chance for a new prospect to actually purchase.
Yeah.
Which just, speaks volumes to me and the importance of using your past customers as a channel to, reacquire them. Because like you said, they're not canceling because they're saying I'm done forever. They're saying not right now. And sometimes you have to be reminded, sometimes you have to be nudged, sometimes you have to be incentivized, and then you can come back and feel great about it and you're happy again. So yeah, 100%. There's just a huge untapped kind of list of people here that a lot of brands aren't going after.
I want to talk a little bit about what does a great subscription cancellation flow look like, and then I want to talk about what do some bad ones look like. But if you're in the CPG space, let's say you're selling some supplements or some nutrition product or something along those lines, like some consumable, if you were running it, what do you see the best brands doing? What's a great subscription cancellation flow look like?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a handful of components to that. So I think just to keep it relatively simple, I think, first and foremost, it needs to look professional. It needs to look like your brand. So you want to really branded, well-designed, friendly on desktop, tablet, mobile, you name it, responsive type cancellation flow. So you want that structure set up first and foremost. You want to have a list of, a handful of pre-compiled reasons why people might leave you. And that's going to be based on, the data that you observed on your own. But that's sort of a dynamic list. Like a lot of times when we start working with people, they're like, oh, I know exactly why my customers cancel. Here's the 4 main reasons. Let's put them in there. And we're like, well, let's put another reason in there just to see what people start putting in. All of a sudden you look at the data 2-3 months down the line and you're like, let's look at all those others. Oh, there's a pattern here of like this new reason that's emerging. So let's get that onto our standardized list and then try to dig in more about it, right? So having kind of that pre-compiled list of cancellation reasons so that we can react to them properly. And then really personalization throughout the process. So, of course, bringing in things like name, all that good stuff is great, but there's even ways to bring in like KPIs or just really unique statistics about your customers. So like if you've got a product that's beneficial for hair growth or a supplement or something, like how many shipments have they received? How many, pills does that equate to? What is like the tangible benefits that they've experienced, for those? And bring that to the forefront in the cancellation process and reiterate the value so that, a lot of times you don't even have to concede revenue to keep people or delay products. You can just simply reinforce the value you've given. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to give this up because I am benefit from it. And we've seen that happen a ton too. Yeah.
I could see you could do something really creative where if you, I don't know, pick any product, it could be toothpaste, but like you are you sure you want to cancel? If they've had 50 shipments or whatever, you've saved 17 hours in ordering, unboxing, and whatever, like of managing your toothpaste, or you've saved this much amount by being on a subscription, or your teeth have benefited this much from this product, but you also have A/B testing. So like, I think that's probably the ultimate route, right? Like what we think might be the best offer, who knows until you actually A/B test it, right?
Yeah. So then I was definitely going to say like the third kind of component, or it would be like the fourth, I guess, but whatever number we're on, component is definitely going to be some sort of testing protocol within there. Because like you said, like, okay, yeah, we're willing to, incentivize in the short term someone to stick around. So let's give them 30% off for the next 2 shipments. Great. That sounds cool. But how do we know that that's the best offer for you, right? How do we know that that's going to work for your customer? So we need to be testing that versus 40% off, 50% off, 15% off. It doesn't really matter, up and down. And then also for different durations. So, a lot of times we get people that come in and they say, Tony, well, our cancellation flow that we built ourselves, it's performing great. We're saving, 55% of people that try to cancel. And I'm like, wow, what offers are you doing? Well, we just give everyone an offer that's 80% off for the next 6 months. I'm like, well, all you're doing is giving revenue away. I think you need to start thinking about optimizing for revenue versus optimizing for purely save rate. And because I think brands are just leaving far too much on the table, and you need to really test your way to figure out what's that right mix. Well, maybe it's that 35% off for 4 months is going to be like that perfect mix of you retaining, enough lifetime value of the customer for making it worthwhile while not conceding, your 80% off for 6 months just because you want your save rate number to look higher.
I also think if you do too big of a offer like that, people will start to game it. Like there's a lot of people that they just go in their Audible account, click cancel to get the 3 months free. Probably listeners are going to go do that right now if they, but there's a,
we've had brands we work with that monitor Reddit, that are concerned about gamification. And I think if you train your customers for really giant discounts, they're going to expect that, especially on the acquisition side too. And you see it in different industries. A lot of times it could be like, signing up for the New York Times or the Athletic and you're getting 90% off for the first year. Well, you paid $12 the first year. Now you're going to go up to 150 and you're kind of like, oh, that doesn't seem right. I just paid 12, even though it's probably worth it. You can also set a bad training precedent to your customers too. But, platforms like, ProsperStack that are tied in with Bold, we do have anti-gamification stuff built in too. So like you can control whether people can go and claim the same offer multiple times or get a different offer based on the previous one they claimed. You can really fine tune it. But those are all things that you definitely have to consider when creating a cancellation flow in today's day and age.
Yeah. And talk to me about the AI component of the offer. So you can kind of let it figure it out as well.
Yeah. So kind of in the sense of, you want to test your offers to figure out like, is, 30% better than 40%, better than 50%, right? So we have that A/B testing component, but we also have an AI component that is going to be able to not only generate the offers and the copy of them for you. So what's really interesting is we've seen like up to 7% difference in take rates on the same exact offer with the same exact parameters, just varying how you present the copy and your CTAs. And we've done that through rounds and rounds and rounds of testing, but we call it autopilot, but autopilot essentially will take, your offer and then run it through dozens, hundreds of iterations to optimize that copy and get it to a point where, cool, we were getting a 18% take rate on this offer at its base form. Now we've got it up to 23%. Those are the kind of optimizations that we're looking for, especially when it comes to high volume subscription brands, because small movements can really move the needle quite a bit. Yeah.
Huge. What is the most effective offer? Like between skips, discounts, product swaps, downgrades, different products? Like if you had to pick one, and I know and the beauty of ProsperStack is I know you can do all of them based off of why they're canceling, but like, what's the most effective if you had to choose one?
Yeah. So I would say by industry, it can vary. On the e-com D2C side, probably like skipping, rescheduling. And I kind of lump them into one, but skipping or rescheduling is just as a result of having that physical product or too much of it, or maybe I'm going on vacation. I don't need it right now. I just need to, kind of push it out. They don't want to cancel, but they're just willing to kind of delay that. But as a blanket whole across all of subscription, probably discounts will move the needle the most. But on D2C specifically, we find that like skips and pauses are pretty common.
And then there's the whole other side to cancellation where there's going to be a percentage of customers you can never save, but it's a big opportunity to learn about your product, your service, everything, and potentially improve. Talk to me about how brands are using ProsperStack for that and what some of the strategies are there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit of a platform like we provide is, on the flip side, post cancellation, you've got this treasure trove of data, and it's not usually until it tends to be an afterthought for a lot of people we start talking to, but then once they've got that data collected and they've been running it for months or years, and they're like, we want to go look at this and see what the heck we're seeing, right? And I've heard it used in all sorts of neat ways internally. We've had people that pipe it into their BI tool and kind of make it part of that. We've had customers tell us that, hey, we do a weekly all hands meeting. And every week I print out this specific report from ProsperStack, and that's something we go over with C-suite. And so people are taking it seriously. They are, seeing the importance of the data that we're doing, but there's just all kinds of neat stuff that you can pull out from it and break it down by, cohort of your customer. If you have multiple flows because you have multiple products or whatever the case might be, you can, kind of filter it down by that way, and then by date range and compare it to previous periods. So you're looking at trend data. How are we trending on churn this year versus last year? Okay, we're seeing a spike, and you can now correlate that spike and drill down and look at those subscribers that are churning. And we've had people tell us too, like, you've helped us surface acquisition problems through churn. So we saw an uptick in churn, we dug into it, and we realized that we're acquiring all these customers from this new channel that are churning at twice the high rate as previous before, which throws kind of all their acquisition metrics out of whack. But it also showed them that there was a problem there, and they have to either figure out how to acquire them cheaper through that channel, or maybe abandon that channel altogether because it didn't make cost sense anymore.
Yeah, I often say that it's the biggest churn challenge brands have is actually acquisition, and it's the churn is just, it's more like that's the result, that's the indicator. It's Absolutely. Like you don't, when they say we have a churn problem, no, you don't have a churn problem. That's just what happens when you have bad acquisition, bad onboarding, bad product education, bad ways for customers to manage and interact with subscription, like, and then it just ends up in churn. The churn is not the problem.
Yeah, I agree 100%. If you acquire people, and didn't educate them properly, or didn't, there just could be bad fit customers from the onset. And a lot of times we deal with brands that are like, Tony, like, if we can get them past the 3-month mark, we know that they're going to be here for a year and a half, or something like that. And so a lot of times they'll be hyper aggressive early on, but then I always kind of, warn them. I'm like, well, if they want to churn early, it's probably like, it could be like, like a channel problem, or it could be like an education or onboarding problem. And, just because you're band-aiding it with this to get them to like another 2 months, make sure you're going back and fixing that underlying problem. Because all we're like, we're not saying, again, we're a band-aid, magical fix for everything, but we want to surface issues that you can address in other areas of the customer lifecycle that just happen to result in cancellations, right? So,
yeah. Churn, I often say, it's a formula of when perceived value is less than cost. And when someone, an example I often use is like Netflix. There is arguably billions of dollars of value in Netflix. Like, if you added up every movie in there, and if the average movie is $20 or $30, and if you were to buy everything that's available in Netflix, there's probably $1 billion worth of content there.
Yep.
But I don't know what a subscription is now, $15 a month or something.
Probably,
but there's some people that after they don't pay $15 a month, even though there's $1 billion worth of value, because the perceived value is still less. And the reason why they don't perceive the value is maybe they don't watch Netflix for 2 months.
Yep.
And if you don't watch it, you start to think, there's nothing there for me. And what we always work with brands is, from the second when they subscribe, you don't really actually even have a subscriber yet. I always say you have a lead, and it's your job to educate them and turn them into a customer. Because usually the mindset when someone's buying a subscription is, okay, I'll try it. They probably went to buy it one time, but then they saw the subscribe and save for 20% off. Yep. And they probably thought, okay, I'll click subscribe, and if I don't like it, I'll just cancel after the first month, and I saved 20% of my order. Like, that's how customers are thinking. I've done it. Like, so they're not really a customer yet. So we think, how many new subscribers did we get today? And if 100 people signed up, you should say, well, we got 0. We got 100 one-time orders that we haven't actually turned into a subscriber yet. But now our job is to educate them about the product, our company. And there's a brand, they're a subscription brand, but there's actually a charity water. It's the name of the company or the charity. And I donate on a recurring amount, but I remember when I signed up for the donation, like, you go on their website and they talk about all the water wells they're building everywhere, and they're providing clean water to millions of people. You go through and then you're like, okay, yes, this is a good cause. I'm going to contribute $50 a month. You go through checkout, and then on the thank you page is a video from the founder saying, thank you so much for your donation. Your money helps build these wells and provide clean water to millions of people. And you're thinking, well, I know, that's why I just bought it. I just went through all your material, but what they know is they have to continually educate people on what they're doing in the world. Like, if I don't get email updates about new wells being built after 3 or 4 months, I'll probably cancel my donation, because I go, is there any impact happening? But if I get email updates showing how many people got clean water, how many wells were built, I'll keep it forever, right? So from the second someone subscribes, there's like this half-life of excitement from when they click the subscribe button and they click order.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from then to when they get the product, you could probably email them probably 3 or 4 times that first day, like the second they get it 2 hours later, and keep educating on it. But this all goes down to, like, we could do a whole episode on that, but I know that's not the focus of this one. But I think just for those listening, it's cancellation management is critical. Like, we have seen the massive impact it's made for brands. It's not the root of the problem though, right? Like that's but you absolutely have to have it. Like,
yep.
What is, so on the gathering of information, learning about it, is it open-ended field? Is it pre-selected questions? Is it like, what does that look like? What's the extent of what brands can gather?
Yeah, we always recommend starting with, like, you know, kind of your standard list of, you know, handful of cancellation reasons, and then from there branching out. So, you know, a lot of times it could be like, you know, hey, I didn't like the taste, I didn't like the product, it didn't work for me. So based on those responses, then you can conditionally branch out and say, okay, you selected this, I'd love to learn more if you don't mind. And that could be done through, like, trying to get a one-on-one conversation. It can be done through an open-ended field. But when you have a lot of cancellations, it's also hard to, like, see all those individual data points or whatever. So, you know, what we actually try to do, and what it's not what we try to do, what we do for people is we actually run all open-ended feedback through, like, language processing, and we surface common words and phrases that we continually see, so that you can run reports on an interval. Because if you've got, let's be honest, if you've got 5,000, even 500 cancellations a month, like, how are you going to sift through all that feedback all the time?
Yeah.
So, you know, we try to sift, like, kind of the noise through the noise and get the important stuff up to the top, and let you see snapshots of that, and then drill into, like, okay, which customer was that, or which customers have said that, and what's their common kind of overlapping thing. So yeah, you can do a lot with the feedback you capture within there, and it can be all conditional and it could be open-ended, but it's really about making it, you know, having it in a usable spot after the cancellation too.
Yeah. So I could make it just one open-ended question with a field that's open-ended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what I would do.
You could. Yeah, you definitely could.
I think, like, with our apps, so if someone uninstalls a Bold app, we have some of them, there's like a survey that there's like 5 radio buttons, like why are you leaving kind of thing.
Yeah.
Every time I click those, I pick the first one, or I pick something because I want to get through it. And I think the metric, we get a lot of results, like, but that's the wrong metric. I'd rather have fewer results but quality data.
Yep.
Versus if I said, yeah, 80% of people that uninstall an app give feedback, but it's not valuable. I'd rather have 10% who care enough to type something, like they were that frustrated that they'll actually type something. But it's always been the challenge of then how do you parse all that? But actually now with AI,
it makes it so much easier to summarize and you know, bring up the important stuff than really reading through all the noise. But and part of it goes into what's mandatory versus optional too. And
right,
you know, if you make every field mandatory, you're going to get garbage in there. And if you make it optional, I tend to agree with you and say, you know, the ones that are more intentional about the feedback they want to give, or something happened that wasn't great and they really want to kind of vent, or whatever the case might be, like, they're going to be the ones that are typing in there. And that's quite honestly the feedback you need to see, not someone saying NA or I'm typing here because I can't proceed if I don't type of thing, right? So
yeah. And it's just, be thankful for that feedback too, because, you know, if someone takes the time to give that, it's like gold. Like, learn from it. It's obsess over it. Like that brand that you talked about that reads it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some things that brands get wrong with cancellation flows? Some things to avoid, or like,
yeah. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot, and I think a lot of them are fixed just through some of the principles we talked about earlier. But, you know, a lot of times we come in and people are just kind of doing blanket offers, one size fits all. So, you know, hey, everyone's going to get this same offer and we're not going to really care about anything else. So, but by using customized flows and segmenting your customers and reacting to the feedback they're giving you, like, you're solving that problem inherently. So, you know, I think like kind of the more blanket one size fits all style is really just kind of the big no-no, I think, in today's day and age. And that's what a lot of times you see with, like, a homegrown solution, which is, you know, great. It probably looks great and it functioned for that particular reason you wanted it to, but then it gets abandoned because there's, you know, there's other priorities and whatever. And it just kind of ages there in place versus being able to something that you can easily update and change and react. to new products that you've released, new changes in the market dynamics. Maybe the economy is not doing as well and you need to change things up quickly, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say, kind of more of a blanket one size fits all approach is the biggest problem I see from a day-to-day basis with cancellation flows.
Makes sense. And Prosper Stack does win backs as well too, right?
We do, yeah.
So this is a separate, actually we haven't talked about this all. So can you explain that?
Yeah. So what we do is we have automations that are able to be set up. So, and we call them, win back campaigns, which is basically going to try to re-engage a customer that has gone through with a finalized cancellation. And, a lot of times that can be done many different ways, but like you could reach out to them prior to like that, if they've prepaid through a certain period, you could reach out prior to that period ending and trying to reactivate them with incentives. But it gives us a way to deliver, kind of use that same engine we built in the cancellation flow area, where you can segment your customers and use a trigger-based event and then send them an offer that ties into, Bold in this case, and automatically delivers that offer to email. They click that link and it goes and checks them out and automatically, restarts their subscription, right? And that can be done with, a free product. It could be done with, a discount incentive, whatever the case might be. And, or it could be done, after the subscription's over, maybe 30, 60, 90 days post cancellation. You want to say, hey, we're still here. Is there a need for this product? Here's a quick little incentive to come back and give us another try.
Yeah. I get some very compelling win back campaigns from brands. Like if I can't, like, actually I did cancel my green subscription because I thought, well, it's just easier if I ordered it because I couldn't get the timing right. And then after 3 months or 4 months or something, I got an email. It was just something like, ready to get back on the healthy train. The first month's on us.
Yeah.
I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna
read that for sure.
You're
subscribing. Yeah.
Yeah. And any data on how well those win backs work? Like what kind of conversion brands see?
Yeah. Great question. I'm not entirely sure on the specifics of like what percentage are going to come back for every brand, but like we'd referenced before, like 60 to 70% is kind of your probability of selling to a past one. So as long as you're doing, periodic drips to your past subscriber base, like,
yeah,
I think there's no reason why you're not hitting 40 to 50% claim at some point along the, might not be on that first take or that first email, but, marketing to your past customers. I think you're kind of like, you have cancellation flow, you can capture 40%. Well, 60% get through that. Well, there's a good chunk of that 60% that is got through that can also be won back into a customer again. And that's how I look at it for sure.
Yeah. Well, just knowing that they don't not want your subscription, they just don't want it right now. Right. And that's the reason why a lot of people cancel. So if you are good to them during the cancellation process and not making it hard to cancel, I couldn't believe it. The other day I canceled something and I had to, it still happens. I had to email. It was actually SEMrush, which is like a tool for SEO.
Yeah, we couldn't use them.
Yeah, we use it too. And I had a separate account just playing around with, they have a tool called Exploding Topics.
Okay.
Which is really neat. I'm a fan of the tool and I don't mind giving a shout out on the program. Yeah. It's like you can track trends and see what like the next like trend is going to be for certain things. Right.
Cool. Yeah.
And so I signed up for a 14-day trial, put in my credit card information and everything. And anyways, I thought it was okay, but I was like, I didn't have time to really dive into it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to cancel it and I'll play around with it later.
Yep.
So I went to cancel and I couldn't find a cancel button anywhere. And I finally clicked on the billing thing and it's like to cancel it, I had to email. So then I emailed and I got an automated email and said, we've created a ticket. So I waited a day, emailed a day later, no reply. And then 3 days later, I guess my trial had run up and then I got a charge from the company and said, your receipt for $49. And like, I was like, kind of like heated on the inside. I was like, this is so, I don't have the time to be emailing to like check on this email. I just emailed them back and it's like, look, like if this doesn't get refunded within 4 hours, I'll dispute this charge. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and let you correct this. And they emailed back within about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
After that one. But like how many people I couldn't. And so now if they send me an email in 3 months and say, hey, would you like to give it a try again for Exploding Topics? I'm like, I kind of would say no because of the experience I had. Yeah. But had that been a better experience, I would have.
I think it's so interesting you brought this idea up because there's actually a name for this. And we've blogged about this before. I've talked about it before. but there's this concept called the peak end rule, where
peak end rule.
Peak end rule. So it's like a psychological thing that people, so us consumers, we disproportionately remember brands and our experiences with them at the very peak of our experience.
Yes.
But also at the end, and the end being the cancellation, and where they drop the ball. I mean, we're almost in 2026 here, and the legalities, legal advice aside, you pretty much have to, if you're allowing for online sign up, you pretty much have to allow for online cancellation. And yeah, there's loopholes where you can email, but that, like, who wants to do that? That's not consumer friendly anymore. But if you have that end experience and poorly, like you just said, now you're hesitant to resubscribe to them, recommend them to other people, because that end experience is now disproportionately affecting, regardless of if that product and those topics or whatever were like, man, he's hit it out of the park. But now you're kind of like spoiled by this last experience you had. And I think it's such a fascinating psychological thing, and it is totally true. And so many people have talked about it before, and I've experienced it. And, I think it just makes total sense when you kind of hear about it from other people.
So you've blogged about that? I'll put a link to that in the show notes. That sounds super interesting.
Yeah. Peak end rule. I'll throw you a link to the notes. Yeah.
I always say, like, anyone can be nice to someone when you're meeting them and courting them and wooing them, but it takes a real person to be nice as you're ending your relationship, right? Like, how many times have you, salesperson, like, nicest person in the world, but then when you say no, they all of a sudden you see another side of them.
Oh man, I could probably, I'll share this story another time, but I had a really, really poor experience just like that with a product that we were evaluating to buy the other day. And once they found out, I won't name names, but once they found out we weren't going to buy, they basically said, well, why are we on this call? Why are you wasting our time? And
there goes any chance of ever.
I will never, ever recommend you or buy from you ever again.
Jeez. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. I've had similar experiences. Yeah. Well, okay. Let's give a real quick, before we run out of time here. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, but just in case anyone missed it, we are hosting a webinar where we're going to dive deep into cancellation flows. We're going to show them up on the screen, how to set them up, the A/B testing, everything. If you are listening to this and you want to learn about how cancellation flows work, there's going to be a link in the show notes. Register. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And even if you can't make it, still sign up, because then we'll send you the recording. And a lot of people listening do use Bold subscriptions. And so we usually don't, this is not to promote Bold at all. I'm very usually black and white about that. But I'm going to say it here because this is very specific to this. And I'm excited about this, that ProsperStack and Bold subscriptions have a native connection where if you're using Bold subscriptions, you can now turn on ProsperStack and have the best cancellation flows, I think, out there. You're the market leader as far as I'm concerned. So
we like to think so. Yeah.
Anything else you'd want to say about that, or any last kind of like things you want to say to the listeners?
Yeah. I think for sure, if it all sounds interesting to you, like, we'd love to, kind of dive further into this space and explore it on the webinar on December 16th. And we're equally as excited about, like, this partnership with Bold. It's kind of like, it's like taking it to another level with a subscription platform like yourselves. And I just think you guys are really forward thinking on the importance of retention and wanting to have a top tier solution kind of in the hands of your customers, because it's only going to benefit them. It's only going to make their business healthier. And in turn, when that happens, like, we're all benefiting, right? So definitely excited to kind of see what the future holds with our partnership and helping other brands, with their retention needs as well.
Awesome. Tony, where can people find you? It's the website, and then any social platforms you're active on?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll find us ProsperStack at prosperstack.com. I myself am pretty active on LinkedIn. So I talk a lot about retention, a lot about these ideas, the concepts like peak end rules, and kind of riff about that from time to time. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Tony Sternberg as well. And yeah, we'd love to interact with you there.
Awesome. Tony, this has been a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to December 16th and hopefully see some of our listeners in person. And hey, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, you can ask questions during the webinar. You can ask questions during the podcast. You're probably at the gym or in the car right now, but join a podcast and you can ask Tony any question you want, because maybe I didn't ask the question you wanted me to ask him today, but you'll be able to during that webinar on the 16th. So make sure you sign up for that. Tony, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Jay. It's a blast today. Looking forward to it.
Okay, now, as you know, at the end of every episode, I like to give a 1% tip on how you can improve your store at least 1%. Now, today's going to be a little bit different because it's a video. So these often don't show on YouTube. They only play on the audio versions of our podcast on Spotify and Apple. But today I want to show you visually something, how to do something. Now, you know how much of a believer I am in the importance of treating your best customers extra special, your true fans. There's a ton of data about why this is important. They're the ones that actually go to bat for you on social media. They're your raving fans. They're your tribe. They're the ones that will promote you. They're the ones that will recommend more people. They're the ones that you can build case studies, get testimonials from. Having true fans and treating them really well is really important. I think most people know that. Now, I'm such a big believer in that. That's why we built our Bold custom pricing app. It lets you give VIP pricing to your best customers. You can, gold, silver, bronze, platinum. I've talked about that before on the show, but that's not what I'm talking about today. I actually want to give you a different tip, another way that you can treat your best customers really special. This is really easy to do, and it's something that every single store should do. So I'm going to actually show you right now how to do this. So if you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, I will put a link in the show notes, just a link that will just open the video, and you can actually watch how I'm doing this. You might just get it from listening along, or if you're on YouTube, you'll of course see it. Okay, so the 1% tip for today is create a segment of your top 100 customers and send them a special offer this holiday season, whenever you're watching this. It doesn't have to be for Black Friday. It can be New Year's, it can be whatever, but do something special for just your top 100 customers. And the goal is to be able to send them an email that says, you are one of our top customers. We're not kidding. We have an offer just for you. You're in our top 1,000 customers, our top 100 customers. This will only work for you. You can give it to a friend. It won't work for them. We're thankful for all you've spent for us, and we've created a special offer that's more than our normal Black Friday offer or our New Year's Christmas special, whatever it is. Okay, here's what we're going to do. In your Shopify admin, there's a lot of different ways you can identify your top 100 customers. One of the easiest ways to literally just go to your customer list and sort by amount spend. Shopify shows by default 50 customers per page. I just click on the second page. I go down and I look at what the spend is. I can see here that it's around $2,400. So I know that my 100 customer is around the $2,400 range. Super easy. There's other ways you can do it. Now, I'm going to go to customers, segments. Now I'm going to create a segment. And you used to have to write queries in here, but now I can just literally write customers who have spent more than $2,400, and it will write the query for me. This is just a recent update, and it's amazing. It makes it so easy to create segments. So here we go. I've got my segment. You can see here that there's actually 101 customers in it. I guess there's a customer that was just above the threshold. So I've got my list of my top 100 customers. Now, there's a number of things I can do here. I can click on this, and if I wanted, I could just come over here and I can export this. And there's a lot of things you can do with this export. You can bring it into whatever email software you're using. You can retarget them on social media. You can do all kinds of different things. I'm going to save this segment. I'm going to call it my top 100. Remember, these lists are dynamic. So tomorrow, if someone spends $5,000, they would be in this list. It changes every day based off of that. But for now, I'm going to click here. Now, one of the things I love is you can actually sync this directly with OmniSend, who's a sponsor of the show. That's my preferred email software. So I'm going to create a segment in OmniSend. I'm going to click copy segment. Now what this does is it actually syncs it live to OmniSend. Now if I click in here, I can go in OmniSend and I can see my list here, and I can create an email campaign just for those top 100 customers. This is a really, really important thing to do something special for your best customers, top 100, top 500, wherever you draw the line. Now, another thing you can do is come over here and click apply discount. And so you can pick any type of discount. You can do buy one, get one, store-wide sales, product sales. And the key is when I create a discount code here, I want to, of course, give them something very special. So I'm going to do 45% off because I'm running 25% off on my website. And we're going to apply it to a customer segment. So you can see here, I've got the customer segment. Actually, it pre-selects it of my top 100 customers. And so that's the segment that this coupon code will work. For anyone else, this coupon code won't work. It will only work for customers in this segment. Now, your mind's probably going, there's more things you can do with segments. Of course, there's a lot, but this is a 1% win. This isn't a 10% win, but this is something that is very easy to do right now. Go in your store, create this segment, and whatever time you're watching this, run a campaign just for your top 100 customers, 500 customers, whatever you want it to be. I guarantee you this will pay dividends because these are your best customers already. You want to treat them special. You want to keep them engaged. They're also probably your highest referring customers. So just more reason you want to keep them engaged. So thanks so much for watching. I know this will help. Let me know your feedback when you implement it. I'm all ears. I love getting emails. I'm surprised how many emails I'm getting from our listeners. I absolutely love it. I read every single one. Jay at Shopify1%.com. Jay at Shopify1%.com. And let me know how it worked. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you came up with some other ideas. And maybe I'll feature that as a 1% win on the next episode. So, and if you liked this idea, make sure you leave a review. That's the way you can say thank you. Leave a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Give a thumbs up on YouTube, wherever you're watching right now. That's all you have to do to say thank you. And hope it works. See you on the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone.